Hello. Something kind of unscripted and kind of random today. I've been really inspired by the outpouring of support for physical media since that really shitty news from Sony that we had very recently. While it's something that maybe isn't all that unpredictable and something that a lot of physical media collectors have been kind of bracing for a long time, it was news that landed as a bit of a blow to a lot of different people. And obviously, that's talking about games, but I thought it would be worth kind of talking about films and Blu-rays as well, and just sort of sharing kind of my journey with physical media, as it were, and just kind of hanging out with this monstrosity for a little bit. For the record, this is something that I've been building, since I was like 13 years old. I worked at Blockbuster. It was my very first job, as a matter of fact. So I was kind of on the front lines as like Netflix was coming along. Every Friday, we would go, like my family and I, and we would be actually making choices based on artwork and based on, oh, I know this actor. This might be a lot of fun. It's a random one to pick off for that. But another big and important part of it was just chatting with other film fans, both the people working at the store. Fun fact, we actually got 10 free rentals a week at Blockbuster. Because they expected us to be able to hold conversations with customers and make recommendations and talk about what was out. It was the best job in the universe, and I was a snotty little 16-year-old, and I did not appreciate it while it lasted. But a lot of this started when I was working there. I remember picking up this copy of The Departed and just being like, that is such a cool steel case. And it made me excited to go and watch the film again. No director and no filmmaker is going to argue that there's any substitute for the theatrical experience. But I do think that physical media, if you're watching a film anywhere but a theater, that's an important experience too, especially the experience of going into a video store, of renting something, of chatting with other people in the line and at the cash register who'd seen it and kind of getting their take on it. That was all a really beautiful experience. And basically, that all got kind of swept away by this current of convenience. I remember in our office, there was like a T chart of like what you get from Blockbuster and what you get from Netflix. And it's really kind of sad retrospectively. And at the time, I remember looking at it and being like, you guys are basically spitting at this tidal wave that's coming for you. It's not going to make a difference. But I do think that physical media just generally is something that's been taken for granted. A lot of people have known this about me, my friends, my loved ones. For people who aren't as into physical media, or for perhaps the bulk of the population, like, let's be honest, who relies on streamers or who relies on kind of other means to watch movies or to play games or whatever it is, they'll come over sometimes and they'll look at this and they're kind of like, are you okay? But every person who comes over and looks at this collection, like everyone, regardless of how into films they are, regardless of how into physical media or not they are, everybody who has ever come over to my apartment has pulled something off this shelf and been like, wow. Everyone. There's some kind of hidden, kind of almost innate desire in us to go back to that video store where, like, you would see, like, holy shit, he's got a copy of The Red Shoes. I haven't seen this in ages. A buddy of mine was pretty stoked to see Inland Empire the other day. Where else are you going to get the Kino video copy of Cops versus Thugs? I actually have stuff too that, I haven't watched yet. And then, like, one day it's just like, today's the day. Today's the day I'm going to watch The Shape of Night. Beautiful, brilliant, brilliant film. And it just floored me when I watched it. But it sat here for a while before I got to it. And I think that that's also kind of a way that it's different from streaming. And I think that, like, streaming, you're not committed to your choices. You're kind of like cycling through all of these films. You eventually land on one and give it a try. And if it doesn't hook you in the first 10 minutes, you're done. When you rent something, it's like, oh, I'm committed to this for the weekend. I paid for it. I might as well give it a shot. And there's a lot of films on here that, like, the first 10 minutes, they weren't wowing me. I stuck with it and it was like, damn, that really, really moved me by the end. A recent example that I actually went back to was A Prophet. I know we're kind of down on this guy right now for his most recent motion picture, which I will not mention here, but this was a film where, like, I started it, first 10, 15 minutes, I was like, I don't know if this is really for me. And then the longer it went on, the more I got invested in the characters in the world and just the style of movie it is. And it's something that I now think, is a masterpiece. There are other examples. I probably never would have seen Felon with Steven Dorff had I not worked at Blockbuster. This was a big favorite at the On Sound Blockbuster. A colleague there was like, you have to watch this. It's like this amazing, like gritty, low budget prison drama, and like the characters are really good and you get so invested in it. And I was like, really interesting. And similar, I think I either picked up a used copy, this might be it, for like $6.99, or I might have rented it and it sat there for a while, and then I finally watched it and I just got so like engrossed in it. And I actually still, this is still, you can kind of see the Blockbuster. These were like what all of our cases were like. I mean, not to bore any of you, but there was like a little slot in here that like a locking thing kind of went into, and you had this little device at the cash register that you'd kind of go like, and it would pop it out so that people could actually open the case when they got home. And the worst thing was when people left with the lock thing still in, or if you ever did the major no-no of giving somebody a case that hadn't been unlocked, then you were on the shit list for sure. And I would say, in positive news, there are a lot of really good premium labels, one of which I'm repping the colors for here right now, that are really having their best moment. I've been really proud of the work that I've done for Chameleon Films, on Johnny Toe's films. I sort of cut essays for these that were kind of designed to be very similar to the sort of featurette bonus features that we used to get all the time on DVDs and on Blu-rays. And it was like one of the best parts of renting and of buying those. Labels like Criterion are putting out crazy stuff like this Wong Kar-wai, World of Wong Kar-wai box set. I mean, this thing is just weighty with cinematic excellence. You can't see it from up here, but I also have the John Cassavetes box set. Looks pretty nice on the shelf. And I think that there is like a film element to this whole discussion that's happening right now, because let's not forget, PlayStation deleted all of those really, great films. If you look at the list of films from like the Studio Canal licensing fuck up, like all of that great cinema that just got nuked from people's libraries. I mean, that's yet another reason that I feel very validated for having this. Another reason that I feel very validated for having it is like, no, oh, my Wi-Fi is kind of shit right now. We have 5 minutes of the movie in a heavily pixelated form. Somebody's face gets frozen in a weird way at the climax of the movie. None of that. I also lend these to people all the time. I mean, I do have a rule now where I'm like, you can take one at a time, because like some of them I don't see back for months. That's also a really fun thing. I mean, a lot of my friends are filmmakers and film people. They hit me up like a video store. They're like, have you got a copy of Donnie Darko? And I'm like, man, I got the Arrow video copy of Donnie Darko. Of course I do. The theatrical edition. Because that's like one of the few cases in all of recorded history where the director's cut is just... If I had to sum it up, I think physical media is important because it adds to the experience of watching a film. It is a tangible, tactile thing. I think physical media is important because of ownership, permanent ownership. No one is ever going to come take it away from you. It allows you to experience the film outside of a movie theater in its best way, in terms of picture, in terms of audio quality. You're getting the best experience that usually, I mean, certainly in cases with filmmakers like Christopher Nolan has talked about this, usually the filmmakers are involved in kind of curating that experience and really making sure that you're getting something comparable to watching it in a theater. You can lend them to your friends. You can enjoy, certainly in Criterion's case, the brilliant liner notes that usually have fantastic essays. You can enjoy the bonus features like making of featurettes. That taught me a lot about how to make movies. I mean, there are some banger featurettes on this shelf that can teach you a lot about filmmaking, about what working on set feels like. Really important stuff for anyone who's like interested in writing about or participating in the form. And more to the point, they're just nice.